Welcome to Travers Talks, the podcast, where we unpack the most important developments shaping northern Michigan. And of course, I'm your host, Jim Horn. Today, we're going to be diving into a major update on Project Alpha, the Grand Traverse County initiative to modernize and consolidate emergency and public service facilities. This includes a new emergency operations center and a central storage facility aiming to serve the county for the next, get this, 75 years. So we're going to get into the key takeaway from the latest study session. This was a study session on April 23rd, the Grand Traverse County Board. And I'm not going to get into the real weeds on this thing because it is, listen, you're going to drive off the road or you're going to walk into a telephone pole just listening to, some of the details. I think more importantly, in a couple of weeks, what's going to transpire is that they're going to be talking about the budget. And that you want to know about because this is going to be an expensive project and they're going to have to determine where they're going to get the money from. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is let you listen to the gentleman from Cunningham Limp. They're doing a lot of this work, and he's going to sort of bring you up to date on where they are on the proposal. I won't get into any of the schematic drawings, any of the dollars, because that's going to really come later at another study session. So here we go.
Morning.
Morning.
Bobby Dukalinski. I'm the CFO and Executive Vice President of Cunningham Limp in Northwest Michigan. We're based here in Traverse City. With me today, as Chris mentioned, we have Jerry Tomczak. He's our Director of Operations here in Northwest Michigan. As you may remember, Jerry's been coming in, provide monthly updates on the progress that we've made on Project Alpha. Today, in lieu of that kind of standard monthly update, today we're going to go through and present with the current schematic design plans that have been prepared for both the ECC and EOC building, as well as the central storage facility. In addition, we will then also review the schematic design budget that's been prepared for both of those projects that have been prepared by Cunningham Limp. This is kind of the first milestone for both the design and budgeting process for the project. As we go through this process, we will have continued ongoing budgeting efforts from this point forward that will continue to update the budget as we go, as the drawings continue to progress. But from here on out, we will then have two more kind of main milestones in this process as we go through the design development process, and then ultimately into the construction drawings process, at which time we will both have budgets that will be prepared in order to review through that process. So in a minute here, Jerry will come forward and go through the specifics of both the schematic design plans for both buildings, as well as talk through the budgets that have been prepared for both of the buildings. But first, I just want to spend a couple minutes to walk through the steps of the process of how we've gotten to this point today. So after Project Alpha was approved by the board, Cunningham Limp was then onboarded to partner with the county to go through this process. The first step in the process from there was to go through a competitive selection process to bring on the correct design team for the project. Through that competitive selection process, we selected Partners in Architecture, who was then brought forward to the board, and they were approved to come on board as the design team. Once we had the design team ready, we then went through the programming phase. The programming phase for the project was a several-week process where we interviewed the staff, the department leaders, the team that's been put together to head up the Project Alpha. In addition, we went through site visits and saw all of the current facilities for the county. And we then carried on weekly and bi-weekly meetings to be able to talk through the programming requirements for the ECC and EOC building, as well as the central storage facility. once the programming requirements were completed, which have been included within the packet that's been provided, we then were able to develop an initial site plan and floor plan for the project that would incorporate all of the necessary programming requirements that have come out of the programming phase. With that initial site plan and floor plan, we then went through a refinement process and took feedback from the department leaders, the board in some scenarios, and were able to develop what we now have as this initial schematic design plan that has been presented today, as well as a site plan that would incorporate those schematic design plans for both buildings. Once we then had the schematic design plans together, Cunningham Limp was then able to prepare this initial schematic design budget that we're here to prepare to walk through today. So Jerry's going to go through the specifics on both the schematic design plans as well as our budget, and we'll be willing to answer questions on anything specific from that. As I said, this is the first milestone for checking in on a budget. There'll be continued budgeting efforts from this point on, as well as continued refinement of the drawings and the plans as we continue to make decisions on various things like value engineering, incorporating things that may not be on the schematic design now, but we do feel is necessary for part of the project, as well as potentially revise and eliminate things that may be unnecessary for the project. This current schematic design budget reflects the current market conditions for the material, the labor, the trends based on Cunningham Limp's extensive knowledge on construction pricing for very similar projects that we've been doing recently. While the packet that we're providing is a high-level summary of both the building cost and the site cost, we have gone through and we do have a full breakdown of all major components for all scopes of work that comprise of that summary number that's there.
There you have it, folks. I hope it wasn't too detailed. Sort of gives you an update as to, what's going on. The bigger update will be when the budget numbers start floating around and they start putting the numbers to the schematic drawings and what this whole thing is going to cost the county. And as I said earlier, this is not going to be cheap, but you have to realize a lot of the county infrastructure needs a lot of work. It's been around for a long time, and they've done a lot of machinations with it. They've added on, cleaned up, who knows, moved things around. But now it's time to really take a look at the hard numbers and change the infrastructure. Anyway, hey, thanks for listening to the short podcast, and we're going to be back at you next week. Take care.